Fox News is in the second or third version of their coverage of the coronavirus, and they're still very much defensive of Donald Trump and his government's response, which is why it is awesome when they bring on guests, experts, doctors, who are willing and able to, at least in this one appearance they'll get, because there might not be future ones, reveal some inconvenient truths to the Fox News audience. Here is Dr. Rishi Desai recently on Fox News.
Here every night is that there are millions of tests available, and yet we don't have that pinprick blood test that you can just sort of get, at your local doctor and know in 15 minutes. But they're working on it.
Yeah, they're working on it. They should have been working on it for months. So the fact is, we knew about this from the WHO when? December 31st, 2019. So last year, we knew about this. We knew coronavirus is coming. We knew it was a respiratory disease. We knew it was person to person. Why is it that it's this week that the FDA finally approved these kind of new Abbott lab testing, which, by the way, is one test at a time? It's a great test, but it's one test at a time. It's different than the labs that are doing mass testing, right? So this is a wonderful test. Don't get me wrong, but it's one test per 15 minutes. That's wonderful, but it's not the same volume that you really need. This is better for kind of outpatient clinics and things like that. We needed this months ago. You look at South Korea and the U.S. had their first official confirmed case on the same date, January 19th. That means since January 19th, you look at what South Korea did and what we did. Their population is 1/6 of ours. Look at the cases they have. Look at the mortality they have. It's a trifle compared to what we're dealing with right now because we've had a very weak response and they had a really strong response.
Doctor, thank you. Very interesting to talk to you, Dr. Desai. Hope you'll come back.
Okay, so a lot of people I saw in responding to that were saying that her pause where he stopped talking and she was was her listening to someone who's probably saying dump out. Now, as a person who gets in the ear of people who are on camera, Brett, what do you think was happening there?
Oh, absolutely that. Also in the back of her mind was we thought that you would be an easy interview because there's cartoon germs behind you. We thought this would be much like our coverage has been cartoonish. We thought we would get some very simple responses to you. Maybe it's like a boing at the end. But no, you were pointing out the shortcomings of the man whose sails we are meant to blow wind into.
Exactly. And in multiple different areas. So in one, she starts off saying, we hear all the time, there's tons of tests. Everybody's got tests. No, that's not what we're hearing. Governors, the Montana governor recently was saying, no, we're going to run out very soon. So that's a very important myth for this doctor to immediately bust. But then also to try to get people to be realistic about what these new advances in tests are going to be able to accomplish in a very short time. That there are some that might be faster, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they can process an infinite number simultaneously. And then to put it in the context of, how we compare to South Korea in this, that sure, they are a smaller country. We should acknowledge that. Although let's also acknowledge that Seoul does not have 38 million people, as Trump said earlier this week, but that they have been far more successful in no small part because they didn't drag their heels and they took it seriously from the very beginning. Whereas here in America, we still have states that are not on lockdown. There's not going to be any sort of federal lockdown, even though Dr. Fauci today said that he thinks there should be. I think that that's more likely to result in him no longer being brought onto the news than it does a national lockdown being instituted by Donald Trump.
It's just that the short-sightedness of everyone in the Trump administration is they don't want to create an instant lockdown so that it ruins the economy in very obvious ways. But after that, they don't realize that they're slowing the rate at which we are allowing this to grow, so it grows faster and faster, which will lead to an eventual total lockdown, which will then cripple the economy after a longer time of dragging your feet. So rather than just do it fast, do it effectively, and do it in a way where you have to have faith that people will understand you're acting in their best interests, even though it is kind of a tougher in the short term thing to endure. Yeah. Instead, they end up leading to the same total lockdown, which will happen down the road, which will end up having created a longer window during which we're kind of ruining the economy because we have to.
Yeah. and unnecessarily losing more lives along the way. Like 1,000 a day at this point.
Right, but like Tucker yesterday was talking about going back to Dan Patrick, the lieutenant governor of wherever it was, and when he did that, he went back and said, "Listen, we should have done this a completely different way. It is mean for people to go after folks like that," and he's just being a douche.
Exactly. And so, I saw someone in the comments just said, it's great that Fox was willing to air that. Well, they aired him there.
They can't.
We'll see if they have him on again.
I mean, it would be amazing. It'd be amazing if they just put up like technical difficulties with like someone in a broom, like some kind of bossa nova going on in the background.
I mean, they basically did as close as they could. By the way, that doctor, Rishi Desai, he said as of yesterday that he believes that he had coronavirus, that he experienced many of the symptoms, including a really bad fever. So just bear that in mind too.
Right, but that's another thing, and they want to have it both ways. They want to say that they want to keep the total infection numbers down, so they're not testing everyone. But they also want to say that it's a much lower mortality rate than anyone gives it credit for. But they can't prove that because they're not testing people.
Exactly.
And they try to have it both ways.
Exactly. And so that was one doctor. We do have another doctor for you. So Nicole Saphier, who I believe I have not always really loved her appearances on Fox News. But anyway, she was on with Fox and Friends. I believe this is this morning. And effectively, the Fox and Friends gang was saying that all these red states that haven't done lockdowns, of course they shouldn't. They want to protect their economy, and it's not that bad there. Well, she popped that inconvenient belief as well.
I don't want the president to have to come out and do a mandatory stay at home across the entire nation, but I do implore the governors to take responsibility for their states. They know their citizens and they know what needs to be done. We still have hotspots in states that are rapidly increasing cases faster than they would expect. Everyone thinks that New York City is the hotspot and that's the only one that's going to be, but that's not true. Anywhere can be like New York City we're seeing right now. They're just a few weeks behind.
Yep. Yeah, so some of the governors that haven't done it yet, Kay Ivey, the Republican governor in Alabama, she said, "I put down a marker last week affirming that we are not having an order to stay in place. We are not Louisiana. We are not New York State. We are not California. In Missouri, their governor Parson says he was not inclined to make a blanket policy. Well, Louisiana's bad, but Alabama isn't. So, and Missouri says we're not going to make a blanket policy.
Increasing cases too. Yeah, right. I know, and I agree. I agree that each state needs to do what's best for their state. However, you're starting to see those cases increase, and what's happening in Louisiana is going to happen in Alabama too.
What?
Yeah, and he didn't really know what to say to that. He felt like, well, the governors are saying that they're fine right now, and for some reason we're supposed to be against these lockdowns. Like, I don't even think these Fox hosts know why that's the position they're supposed to have, except that Donald Trump doesn't want a national lockdown. So they have to pretend that that's a wise thing to do, even though the experts that they themselves are bringing on, and that's not the first time that she's been on there. They bring her on pretty regularly. She's saying, yes, Bozo, I'm trying to get through to you. It's not as bad right now, but the fact that they're not locking it down is what is going to lead to it being as bad as it is in Louisiana or in these other states. The red states are not immune to this.
And the rate of infection in Alabama, it was reported, is at a higher clip than in California. So when Kay Ivey is proudly claiming that they're not California and New York, specifically claiming they're not California, she kind of wishes, because everything that they're doing is annoying. But that's the theme, man. The theme is people trying to wish things into existence, and that's how religion works, and that's how Trump has played everything since he was born, really, just using this marketing campaign to accomplish results that are beneficial to him. But you can't market your way out of a virus. You can't change the facts on the ground. You can't change the science behind the climate change to benefit you, but the benefit that they have of the nature of climate change is it's happening at a slow enough clip where they're not affected by it materially. This is just an expedited version of that, where Trump is so anti-science and science doesn't give a crap.
Yeah, I'm looking at the numbers now that you were bringing up. And look, Louisiana's hard hit. Like, they might pass California today in total numbers of infections. It looks like they're at over 10,000 now.
But that's the stuff. It's like, if we did this quickly, Louisiana had Mardi Gras, right? There's spring break is happening now. And there were reports of people who, there were 44, or there was a plane full of folks who went to Mexico and they weren't supposed to, from UT Austin, your alma mater, and one of them. And they weren't supposed to go. And then when they came back, they
what do you know? They got coronavirus.
100 of them got coronavirus, and a lot of them are apologetic. But it's tough. It's tough to be the Chicken Little saying, like, listen, the world is on fire. You need to do something about it. Yeah. When you're right. I saw someone tweeted an amazing little thing. It's like, every disaster movie starts with the government ignoring a scientist.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It usually doesn't end that well. For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.